Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a review on the long-awaited Colourpop Rawbeautykristi collaboration. I was so excited for Kristi when she announced this collection. I think the promo photos were so stunning. She looks absolutely amazing, and 2020 has been her year, which just makes me happy because I think that she is so deserving. I think she did a really good job with the colors in this collection. It's beautiful, and in today's video I filmed 2 different eye looks and I wanted to let you guys know what I thought about the products. I did purchase this entire collection on launch day. I was so excited to actually be able to get my hands on it because I had a feeling it would sell out very quickly, and it did. They actually announced a restock date, so it will be available on December 11th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you guys didn't get your hands on it and you want to try to get it then, that's when you can grab it. But Colourpop actually sent me the entire collection in the mail as PR, which was really kind of them. I wasn't sure if I was going to get it in PR, and I wanted to support Kristi, so I did buy it. But that means I actually have an entire collection to give away to one of you guys. It's always easy to enter my giveaways. Just check the description box below for all of the information. I'll just keep the giveaway open for a week or two so I can get the collection sent out as soon as possible, and then I will update the description with the winner once I get in touch with them and ship it out. But I really wanted to share my thoughts on the collection, so that is what I'm doing today. I did film 2 different eye looks, so if you want to jump ahead, just check the description box below. But let me go over all of the products in the collection. So let's start with the Lux lip glosses. I have tried this formula and I do really enjoy it, so I was excited to get 2 new shades. These retail for $9 each. The first one is called Glacier, which is a really pretty clear with a bunch of silver shimmer. And then the second one is called Wildflower, which is a really nice light pink with a small amount of shimmer in it. If you guys haven't tried this formula, it's a very comfortable, cushiony formula. I feel like they are very, very moisturizing. They're not super slippery or overly glossy, but they're also not sticky. They kind of fall in the middle, so I find that they do last on the lips really well and they feel really moisturizing. Now, if I apply a little bit too much of this, I do notice that it will kind of pull apart and I'll get like lip gloss strings, which isn't, you know, a super attractive way to describe it, but if you wear a lot of lip gloss, you know what I'm talking about. So I'll usually just kind of focus it on the outer portion of my lips, and I feel like that's better anyway because it does stay in place a little bit better. She also did 3 of the Colourpop Creme Gel Liners, which I really like. These retail for $7 each. Colourpop has definitely improved this formula over the years. When I first tried them, I felt like they dried out very quickly and they broke very easily, but I find that the newer pencils that I've received don't do that. So they really are one of my go-to brands for eyeliner, especially for the waterline. So the first shade is Marigold, which is a really nice kind of mustard yellow. The second one is Thyme, and this one is more of a teal green. And then the third one is Woodsy, which is just like a staple warm brown. These shades in particular do go really nicely with the palette, but even if you don't purchase the palette and you're looking for some nice eyeliners for the waterline, I think you would enjoy these. I think I'll get the most use out of Thyme and then also Woodsy. These are 2 shades that I reach for a lot. I don't know if I'll reach for Marigold a whole lot, but if you do like bright yellows, this one is really rich and it's very, very creamy. I was so excited when she said she decided to include 4 of the Super Shock shadows. I love Colourpop's Super Shock formula so much, and it's something that I still reach for very, very often these days. And I love the shades that she created because I think these will look really nice with the palette, but also with any other palette in your collection. But the first shade is Olympic, and the majority of these are a little bit sheer, and they just add a ton of sparkle, so you can use them alone or as topper shadows. The second one is Mycelium, which is a little bit more sparkly than Olympic, and again, this one has a little bit more of like a champagne base, so it's not quite as sheer, but it is sheer enough that you can use it as a topper shadow if you want. The third one is Like a Moss, and this one is a really pretty green. If you just layer it on its own, again, it's a little bit more sheer, but if you layer it on top of shadows, it does transform the look and it kind of creates more of an intense green, which I will show you guys in today's video because I did use this. And then on my eyes today, I have the shade Campfire. This is probably my favorite out of the 4. It's the most pigmented. So if you don't necessarily want like a sheer topper, you might want to grab this one, but it's just like a really pretty warm copper. I think these are all the ultra glitter finish, so you're going to get a ton of sparkle when you wear them. What's nice about the Colourpop Super Shock shadows is they stay in place well, so sometimes when you reach into like a typical metallic or sparkly shadow, you'll end up with glitter or sparkle all over your face, but that's not the case with these. And then finishing up with the Colourpop at Forest Sight palette. This is what I think most people are going to be interested in. It retails for $20 and it comes with 12 different shadows. I love that she did such a rich palette. A lot of Colourpop's recent releases have been either neutral or just on the lighter side in general, so you do get more of a subtle look. But with this palette, you're definitely going to get an intense, vibrant look. You really get everything that you need in this palette, whether you're doing something warm toned or cool toned. So out of the 12 shadows, 9 are true mattes. They don't have any shimmer in them, and they're pretty intense mattes, which I'll get into in a second. One shadow is a matte with shimmer in it, so you can either use it as a matte shadow and dip your brush in and tap off the extra shimmer, or you can take a flat brush and really press it onto the eyelid to get that shimmer to show up. And then 2 of the shadows are shimmers. The shade Evergreen is a little bit more of like a satin, and then the shade West Coast is a true metallic gold. I'm actually going to jump into the 2 looks that I did, and then I'll finish up my thoughts on the palette. So the first look is the very first time I used the palette. I did more of a green look, and then the second look is the one that I'm wearing today. So if you want to skip the first look, just check the description box below for timestamps, but afterwards I'll come back and share my final thoughts on it. So I'm just going to start with the shade Puffball and blend that into the crease, and then also up as a transition color. I like that she included this shade in the palette because I do think it will go well whether you reach into the cooler tones or the warmer tones. There's a really pretty color called Chanterelle, which I think would be so much fun to use. I'm not sure if I'm going to use that today, but I might, just because it looks like a really pretty kind of like goldenrod yellow. So to save time, I'm just going to show you guys everything on my right eye, and then I'll do the left eye off camera. So let me do the same thing on the left eye. Okay, next I'm going to go in with the shade Fiddlehead, which is a really pretty medium toned green, and I'm just going to blend that into the crease. I feel like green eyeshadow is super trendy right now, and a lot of brands are coming out with green palettes, and I do love wearing greens on the eye. Some of the green shadows that I have can be a little bit patchy and hard to work with, but this one is blending out really, really nicely. So I'm just going to go back in with a little bit of that shade Puffball and kind of blend out the edges. That green shadow blended so well. And if you're someone who doesn't like to do anything too dramatic, but you still want to incorporate a little bit of color, you could totally stop here and put any shadow all over the lid, and you would have a complete look that would look really nice too. I am going to go a little bit darker just because I want to use as many shades as possible. So I'm going to take a little bit of the shade Emerald City and blend that into the outer corner. I love the name Emerald City. It reminds me of Wicked. That is like my favorite song in Wicked. But I think Kristi said Seattle is actually called Emerald City just because everything is so green in the area, which I did not know. This shadow is blending out really nicely as well. I did swatch these shadows before filming, and they swatched really nicely. They just felt extra smooth. So I hoped they would blend out really easily too, but sometimes you just don't know with really colorful shades. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on the other eye. I am going to take just a little bit of the shade PNW, which is a really beautiful, intense blue. And I'm just going to, ooh, I got some fallout with that one. I'm just going to build this up in the outer corner. I didn't tap off the brush, which probably would have been smart because these shadows are pretty intense. So it might be more ideal to do your eye makeup first. I don't even have to layer that up because it's so intense. And then I'm just going to go in and blend it out as well. I'm going to go back in with just a little bit of the shade Puffball and use that on the outer edge just to kind of bring some of that color back out, because I've kind of blended the green shadow up pretty high. I'm going to take the shade Evergreen from the palette and just, oh wow, this is way more shimmery and beautiful than I thought it was going to be. In the pan, it's pretty, but it kind of looks like more of a satin than a metallic. But wow, on the eyes, it is really pretty. I personally love shimmers and metallics more than mattes, but she did release a Super Shock Shadow Quad where you can also purchase them separately. So that is a nice touch because that way if you like shimmers or metallics like I do, you can always work with those as well. But I do love the Super Shock Shadow so much, so I'm going to go in with the shade Like a Moss, which is just a little bit more shimmery, and I'm going to place this on top. So this is really pretty all over the center of the lid, or of course you could go over the entire eye. I'm going to focus it on the center, but then also pull it toward the inner corner as well. And it just makes things a little bit brighter, a little bit more sparkly. I'm just going to apply the Colourpop BFF liquid liner, and then I'll be right back to do the lower lash line. Okay, so moving on to the lower lash line, I'm just going to take a little bit of the shade Fiddlehead and lightly blend that on my lower lash line just to tie things together. I'm going to go in with the Creme Gel Liner in the shade Spare Time and just use this on my waterline. This is such a beautiful, kind of like emerald green. I'm also going to take a little bit on my lower lash line, and then I'm going to smudge it out with an eyeshadow brush as well. I'm just going to take a little bit of the shade Evergreen and just kind of press that on my lower lash line just to add a little bit of shimmer because it's looking super matte right now. To highlight the brow bone and kind of clean it up, because I usually blend shadow a little bit too high, I just take a light shadow. So today I think I'll go in with this one, and I'm just going to apply that to the brow bone and then also use it to kind of blend away some of that extra shadow. This is a step that I always do no matter what type of look I'm doing, just because I do have a tendency to be a little bit messy when I'm applying my eyeshadow. So it almost works as an eraser or a little bit of a diffuser. And then I'm just going to go back in with the smallest amount of the shade Puffball and just lightly go over the edges one last time. To finish off the look, I just used the Urban Decay Lash Freak Mascara, and then I've been wearing this gloss the entire time. I just applied a little bit more. It is the Lux Gloss in the shade Glacier. It's a really pretty clear gloss with a ton of shimmer. I think it's so much fun that you can get such a colorful look out of this palette. If you want to tone it down, you can totally skip the Super Shock shadow all over the lid and even the darker shadows in the outer corner, but it's nice that you can do something a little bit more intense and smoky. So I can't wait to do another look using this palette. Let's jump into the second one. Okay, so for this look, I want to focus on some of the warmer tones. So I'm going to focus on this quad over here. I'm going to start with the shade Old Growth, which is a really pretty kind of dusty pink. And I'm going to blend this into the crease and then up as a transition color. I'm just going to go in with a little bit more. This is one of my favorite types of colors to use in the crease as a transition because I do love to do a lot of pinky purple looks. So I am really enjoying this one. That shadow blended really, really nicely. It honestly took just a few seconds. So now I'm going to go in with the shade Rainer, which is a little bit of an orangey red tone. It's kind of muted though. It's not too bright. And I'm just going to work that into the crease to darken things up a little bit. I don't want to go too heavy-handed with this one. I always say that and then I end up with a ton of shadow, but I am going to work in some deeper shades, really focusing those on the outer corner. So this one is just meant to darken up the crease a little bit. I do feel like these two shades are not quite as powdery as some of the deeper shades that I used for the other look. So there's no fallout, but they're still blending out really, really nicely. Next, I'm going to take a little bit of the shade Homegrown, which is a deeper brown with a little bit of a red undertone. And I'm just going to focus this one in the outer corner, but again, blend it into the crease. So far, this eye look has been a very seamless process. All of the shadows are blending extremely well, including this one too. I am going to use like the pressed pigment in this palette, so we'll see how that one performs, just because pressed pigments can sometimes be a little bit more difficult to work with. I just realized I don't have a lip balm on or anything. I'm just going to apply the Luxe Lip Gloss in the shade Wildflower. The last shade I'm going to use is Amanita. Now this one does have a disclaimer because it is a pressed pigment, so it can leave a little bit of staining. If you have extremely sensitive skin, you might want to avoid this shadow in particular. So I just wanted to point that out, but I am going to place it on the outer corner. Okay, it's really, really pretty. And because it is a pressed pigment, I'm more so going to pack this on than blend it in. Now that I've placed the majority of the shadow, I'm just going to very, very lightly blend the outer corner. I'm not even going to take this all the way up into the crease because I mainly want to keep this color in the outer corner, but I'm going to kind of blend it out a little bit. Just make sure the lines aren't too harsh. For such an intense, vibrant look, that really didn't take me that long at all. These shadows blended flawlessly and there is no fallout at all. I think with some of these deeper shades, it might be more ideal to really pack them on and then just lightly blend out the edges because they are so intensely pigmented. So for the lid, I was thinking about going in with the shade West Coast from the palette, but I think I'm actually going to use the Super Shock shadow in the shade Campfire. I just feel like this pretty coppery tone will go a little bit better with the look. So I'm just going to apply it with my ring finger. I love it. It is so gorgeous. So I'm just mainly focusing this on like the inner 2/3 of my eye, and I might have to go back in and touch up that outer corner a little bit, but I just want them to kind of blend seamlessly together. So this is where I'm at. I'm so glad I decided to go with the Super Shock shadow because I think it just goes really well with this look. So I'm just going to line my eyes with the Colourpop BFF liquid liner, and I'll be right back to do the lower lash line. So for the lower lash line, I'm going to go in with the shade Homegrown. I think I'm going to stick with more of a brown lower lash line. I might incorporate a little bit of that purpley tone, but we'll start with this one and see where we're at. So I'm just going to blend this on the lower lash line. I'm going to use the Creme Gel Liner in the shade Woodsy just to line the waterline. This is a really pretty brown. I am going to add just a little bit of color to the lower lash line, so I'm going to take the shade Amanita and just blend that really, really close to the lower lash line and not necessarily bring it down as far as the brown. This will just incorporate some of the color. Yeah, I feel like this kind of ties it together. I'm just going to take a little bit of this shadow to highlight the brow bone. Not a ton of it because I feel like I actually did an okay job blending, so I don't necessarily need to go in and erase anything, but just enough to kind of bring that down a little bit and diffuse all of the shadows together. So to finish off the look, I just used the Essence mascara. This one is the Lashes of the Day. And then I just applied a little bit more of the Lux Gloss in Wildflower. And I'm really happy with how the final look turned out. I think that these colors work really well together. But if you didn't order the Super Shock shadows, I also think it would be really pretty to use the shade West Coast if you want a little bit more of a golden look. This was my second time using the palette. Yesterday when I used the deeper shades, I was trying to blend them a little bit more, so I did get some fallout, and I found that I had to go in and layer them up a little bit more. I think the most ideal way to use those deeper shades is just to really pack them on and then lightly blend out the edges rather than doing like a typical blending motion. So I'm really happy with how this look turned out. Let's jump into the rest of it and I'll share my final thoughts. So as you can see, the shadows themselves are really intense, very, very pigmented. So if you are new to colorful shadows, or you tend to prefer more of a wash of color overall, this might not be the palette for you unless you love Kristi and you really want to purchase it for that reason. But if you're just kind of considering it based on the actual colors, it might be a little bit too intense if you are a beginner or new to color or you have a hard time with eyeshadow in general. If you're looking for really rich, intense, colorful shadows, I think you'll enjoy these because you definitely get amazing color payoff. Like I said, I think the best way to apply those deeper shadows is to really pack them on and then just lightly blend out the edges. I have a tendency to want to go in with a fluffy brush and blend everything together, but that might not be the most ideal solution for some of these shadows. Now that I know the best way to apply them, I think I'm going to have a lot of fun using it, and I think maybe just doing your eyes before the rest of your face might be more ideal with this palette because there is a good amount of fallout with the deeper shadows. But when I'm reaching for colorful shadows, I love really intense color payoff that I don't have to necessarily build up over and over. So this palette really is perfect for that purpose. Now I personally love metallic and shimmer shadows, and this palette only has 2 shimmer shadows. So if you tend to prefer metallics or shimmers over mattes, you might want to take that into account. But I have a ton of Super Shock shadows that I think will be a lot of fun to use alongside of this palette, especially that bottom row because I don't have a lot of rich greens and blues and even purples like this. So as for my thoughts on the collection as a whole, I'm really impressed by it. I think the quality is really, really good. And I like the fact that everything just coordinates so well together. And like I said, a lot of Colourpop's recent releases have been on the neutral side or a little bit more subdued. So I love that the majority of the products in here are really bold and intense, and they just coordinate very well. So you're able to get a seamless eye look no matter what you want to reach into. But like I said, everything will be restocked on December 11th. So if you guys want to grab anything, it will be available then. I'm just really happy for Kristi. And again, even if this wasn't a Rawbeautykristi Colourpop collaboration, I still think the collection as a whole is perfect. But it's because Kristi created it and she did a really great job with it. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you did get your hands on it, let me know what you think. And if you do any looks, tag me on Instagram because I would love to see some inspiration as to how to use the palette in more fun ways. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you very soon with a new video. Bye.